Tank's fighting this weekend. He's fighting Lamont Roach. Lamont Roach coming up from 130 pounds. They both have Hector Garcia on their resume. They both defeated Hector Garcia. I'm going to ask you. I mean, I know we're both picking Tank, or you can surprise me. Who are you picking to win this fight?
I'm picking Tank, of course. Obviously, Tank. Like it's. I think that's like a no-brainer fight, honestly.
Yeah. So we're both picking Tank to win, but I guess if you're going to criticize Shakur in the fashion that he wins fights, you got to kind of criticize Tank in the fashion that he wins fights too. And I know a lot of them are by knockout, so it could be like good criticism, right? Like, oh my God, he looks so, you know what I mean? But I guess, what do you see from Lamont Roach, right? You have him losing, but do you have him as like a live dog in this fight, giving Tank trouble in spurts, or just formidable opponent at all?
I think Lamont Roach is going to be a bit more competitive than Frank Martin. However, I can see him getting stopped earlier than Frank Martin in that same. And what I mean by that is, so Frank Martin, to me, when he was fighting with Tank, yeah, he was kind of, because of his punching power, he was able to kind of keep Tank off him, which prompted Tank to kind of deploy the defensive. Let me walk him forward, keep the high guard up, keep the punches from stinging, take some steam off the punches, let him exhaust himself, right? And Frank Martin just started exhausting himself because he was just so fearful of Tank's power and trying to keep him off him. He wasn't intelligent in how he was moving. I feel like Lamont Roach is going to be able to, move a little better in certain spurts, in the sense of he's going to at least be a little sharper than what Frank Martin was dishing out, right? Some of his punch combinations, I feel like he's going to be able to stay a little tighter, especially within that certain framework. Like I feel like because of his experience and his pedigree as an amateur, and him, having experience with Tank, no matter how long it was, the familiarity between the two fighters is going to allow Lamont Roach to be a little bit kind of, I would say, a bit more calm in comparison to Frank Martin, which is going to go a long way with this gas tank. But I do feel like he's going to stand in the pocket too long and try to exchange with Tank, like what he did with when he got dropped by I forget his name. The fighter that fought Jermaine Ortiz and lost to Shakur Stevenson.
Jamel Herring?
Yes, Jamel Herring. So that tells me, that Lamont could definitely get stopped. If you're getting dropped by, Herring at that point, there's no reason why you wouldn't get stopped by Tank Davis. Now I understand it's different circumstances, it's a different fight. But another thing is Lamont's feet, like how he moves, like how he plants his feet on the ground. He's a bit flat-footed at times, so I don't know if he's going to be able to kind of escape certain punches and fight. But I think he's going to be sharper, but I think he's ultimately, going to be he's going to give some more fight compared to Frank Martin and look a little better. So that's how I see it.
I think it's going to be kind of interesting to see what kind of attack he employs, because Frank Martin, I think, was, kind of like, I don't want to say a simple fighter, but, like his combinations weren't too crazy, kind of fought behind the jab, kind of like that Derek James blueprint, you know what I mean? But when he fought Tank, I think he threw a lot of different looks at Tank. And I think that kind of pointed to why he exhausted himself. He was using a lot, like you said, a lot of movement. He looked very athletic in there. I think Frank Martin was winning a good amount of those early rounds. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, whoa, Frank's looking solid. I haven't seen Frank employ this many different combinations before. You know what I mean? So can we see Lamont do something different? Because Lamont, too, can kind of have like a, like jab, right to the body, come back left. You know what I'm saying? I don't necessarily think he mixes it up too crazy per se. You know what I mean? So can we see him switch it up to kind of keep Tank at bay, kind of confuse Tank? But I think the point I'm more thinking about is, so they both fought Hector Garcia, right? They both beat Hector Garcia. But my personal opinion, and I don't think the commentary did a good job of this, I thought Hector was giving Tank a relatively competitive fight. Like he was hitting Tank. He was boxing well with Tank. Tank stopped him, but he never dropped him though.
Yep.
Remember, he did literally like take his lights out though. Hector Garcia said he couldn't see, like everything was black.
Yeah.
But I thought he was fighting a good fight, punching with Tank. And the reason I make this point is I actually saw Sean Zeitel say this. So he was just like, yo, we kind of look at Rolly as like, kind of like a clown, like a troll. But what if there's some truth to some of the things Rolly is saying when Rolly is like, yo, all
Rolly
the
isn't
guys,
stupid. Rolly
huh?
is not stupid. I'm not gonna lie. Like if you listen to his assessments, they don't be completely like
Yeah.
off.
But like when Rolly says, "Oh, Tank is knocking guys out because their weight drained," da da da. We kind of
Mm,
think, all right, he's just salty, he's just trolling, this, that, and the third. But I mean, Tank's knocked a lot of guys out. But just thinking about like recent fights, like after he fought Frank immediately went to 140, right? Then like the whole Ryan thing, I think we have to agree Ryan was at least a bit weight drained, right? But
yeah.
I'm not diminishing Tank's knockouts here, but Rolly, like Rolly went to 140 afterwards. And Barrios, I don't know how Barrios was making 140. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, so Barrios is definitely a welterweight, right? So,
Right.
Rolly's saying Tank's knocking these guys out because these guys are like weight drained. But then like he fights Hector Garcia, right? And Hector Garcia, he does stop him, but he never really drops him, puts him down. That's a guy coming up from 130. So at 135, he probably felt stronger. So now we see Lamont Roach, another guy coming up from 130, probably is going to feel stronger, less weight to cut at 135, probably going to feel healthy. Do you think at all that can make him feel stronger and potentially go the distance with Tank is what I'm getting at?
Well, it's going to definitely make him more durable, but the problem is
Mhm.
even at those low weight classes, 5 pounds is a lot in the sense of you moving around with those 5 pounds.
Mhm.
So even in one fight, so you still got you. It's like an equivalent exchange some sort. Yeah, you may get durability here, but you may lose in speed, in stamina, in this.
Mhm.
So we got to really see how well conditioned he is coming into this fight. That's really going to determine how his chin keeps up, how well he conditioned he is. Because to your point, Tank gets a lot of his knockouts late in the fight, and that's usually when people are less conditioned. They're probably like frantic. They probably exhausted a lot more energy when they're throwing a lot more punches. But Santa Cruz, right, or even Mario Barrios, right, he was a bigger man that night, but he was exhausting himself, and then maybe you probably shriveled down to make the weight. But at that point in the fight, you're more susceptible to punches, right, due to your stamina really draining. So it really comes down to how well conditioned Lamont Roach is coming into 135. He will have the durability, but does he have the stamina to maintain it and the speed to,
Mhm.
keep Gervonta Tank Davis at bay? And one thing I want to add to, I feel like this fight has going to tell us more about, well, not tell us more about Gervonta, but it's really going to be on Gervonta Tank Davis' boat in the sense of it depends what approach he takes. Because if he comes in wanting to box, right, and really make it a chess match, then the fight is going to look more competitive. But if he decides, like, you know what, I'm going to take the Frank Martin approach, and see what I can do with that, then of course he may get punched and touched up more, but ultimately he's going to get the knockout in that fashion. It just depends on like how he wants to approach the fight. But go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know. You kind of just made me have flashbacks to the Frank Martin fight. That was kind of crazy, bro. The way he was just walking him down like that, though.
Bro, and I knew it was just a matter of time. I remember I was watching it with a couple friends, and I'm like, Frank Martin is exhausting way too much energy. He's gonna get stopped. He's gonna you can just tell the vibe of the fight. Like you can tell who's really in control of a fight. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? Like sometimes there are shifts where like, oh, this guy's in control in this, but I'm like, I don't know if Frank Martin is gonna really turn the tide. Yeah, he was hitting him with punches, but we all knew eventually that those who knew about was like he's gonna get him, and he's just it's just a matter of time at this point. So
Mhm. So do we both agree Tank wins by stoppage on Saturday?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. Tank wins by stoppage. Then after that we have the Shakur. Not we don't have the Shakur fight, but we had Shakur coming off a W. We had Tank coming off a W. Like, do you think we see them next? Because some people are pushing the narrative that they think Keyshawn may be a better fight for Tank than Shakur. So, like, do you think we get Tank and Do you think we get Tank and Shakur next?
I don't think so. I don't know what's going on
You
between the
don't think
both of
Turkey
them.
could make it enticing enough?
No, because I think Tank has a bias towards Turkey. at this point. I think Tank feels like he bends the knee to no one, and he will not kiss the ring, like Canelo Alvarez did. But maybe it requires someone, a third party, to come in, have them both kind of shake hands, eliminate this bias that Gervonta has towards Turkey, because he feels like Turkey is siding with Terrence Crawford, a guy he doesn't like, and also now Shakur Stevenson. So he's like, "Oh, those are your guys. F y'all,
Mhm.
y'all bombing my Ferraris, right?" Like, I think Tank is looking and taking it personal from that sense, as opposed to it being business. And
Mhm.
he will have to he's trying to squeeze as much money as possible out of all of them in order for that to happen. So I think one of the things is he would probably want the fight to happen in the States, right? That's probably going to be a big thing. And is Turkey willing to do that, right? Is he willing to concede and allow that mega fight to happen in the States, right? So
He did Terrence Madrimov in the States.
yeah, but Terrence and Majmov doesn't even compare to Tank and Shakur in
No,
terms
no,
of
but I'm
magnitude.
just saying it. He's been willing
So
to do that before. So it's like, why not do it again? I would bet you
okay,
that both those guys prefer to fight in the States.
yeah, because my thing is like, is Turkey willing to make those fights in the States? But like, let's talk about all the major fights, like the biggest fights where we say these cards are like one of the best cards. But like, even those cards, like the major fights, the best fights we can see in Riyadh season, or even just in general, that can be the equivalent of a Shakur and Gervonta. Were they in the States, or were they generally in Saudi?
Yeah, yeah, no, no.
You know what I mean? Like,
They
I think
promote.
he's probably willing to make certain fights in the States, but if they're not that big, but if they're huge, he's probably willing, because he's also looking to bring the culture of boxing to where he's at, right? To
Mhm.
bring more of a fan base there as well. In order to do that, he's trying to bring all these great fights there,
Yeah,
and this will probably be included. But like, to your point though, maybe the fact that he is able to do it, maybe he's willing, he just has to be like, you know what, let's just do this one big fight in the States too,
yeah. Did Shakur show you enough for you to think that maybe he has a chance to win that fight against Tank?
Nah, he didn't. I mean, there's nothing he probably could have done in that fight that would have told me he beats Tank. And it's only because of the opposition and the circumstances that the last fight has happened, right? Guy came last minute, didn't have a training camp. So if Shakur stopped him in the first round, I still wouldn't have been convinced, he'd have been,
Mhm.
he'd have been able to beat Tank, so
I'm gonna ask this one just because I know people always say say this, and I think it's probably not gonna happen. But should he rematch De Los Santos and beat De Los Santos more clearly? And
I think
because
so.
because I think Shakur's a proud guy, right? And then the next thing that's gonna happen, right, is they're gonna get to the negotiation table, and then there's going to be they're going to be at odds about percentages, right? Because Tank's going to want a much larger percentage than Shakur gets, and he's like, "Yo, I sell, I bring in this much revenue, done this," and then Shakur is going to be like, "Yo, but I'm a three-time three division champ." You know what I'm saying? So I'm just saying, should he do something to say like, "All right, look at the kind of guys I'm beating, how I'm beating them," to say, "Okay, now people are more interested in seeing me as well." And that way, we don't have a big holdup about what the split is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, like I said before, Shakur must be out his mind if he thinks he should get the same split as Tank.
No, I don't think he's thinking
Or
50-50, but I would think what did Ryan get? Ryan got 60-40, 70-30?
I think 60-40. And Ryan is significantly more popular than
I
the
know.
Shakur.
So what if Tank says, "Yo, take 30%?"
This is what I'm saying. Like, and Shakur clearly cares about money, because when Devin Haney pulled his card and offered him a certain amount, he didn't take it. So that tells me you're not really willing. That's one thing I could say about Haney. You throw him a low, even low. If he feel like he can beat you, he's gonna take it. He proved it against Kambosos twice. Shakur, you never proved that. Now all of
Yeah,
a sudden
yeah,
it's about the money. See, at that point, I don't know now.
yeah. I mean, that's an interesting point. I just don't want it to be held up over money. I could foresee that happening if people aren't like realistic in their expectations. You know what I mean? So I mean, you know, I want the fight. I want to see the fight. I hope it can get done. Um, I don't know. I guess Turkey has to get on the phone or get in a conference room with Al Heyman, and then from there. Because my personal opinion, Canelo, I don't think Canelo necessarily went and bent the knee. If you were to ask me, I think Turkey probably changed his approach.
Probably. I would say this. I do think Canelo thought about it more, and he was just like, I actually think Canelo kind of conceded in what he thought about the situation. But I think when the Jake Paul rumors and all that started to come about, I think Turkey ended up changing his, like, you know what? Like, let me go back and really try to make this fight happen by any means and closing the deal. So yeah, I do agree in that sense. I just probably disagree with the sequence of how it happened.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah.
One quick topic I want to touch on. I believe this is going to be on the undercard. So and this doesn't have to be drawn out, but I think it's a very, very interesting fight. And it can go either way. Gary Anton Russell, Rayo. Who do you got in that one?
That is a 50-50 fight, bro. I'm still debating it in my head, bro. That's how, because Gary Antoine is no pit bull. I'll tell you that. He's a bigger puncher. He's a bigger fighter. He's stronger. And he's, in some cases, they're both mean. But like when you got now a guy that's bigger, stronger, could punch harder, that's more of a threat. And the way Rayo boxed Pitbull, I don't think he's going to box Gary Antoine like that, in my honest opinion. I'm not big on Gary at all, but I don't think it's going to turn. I don't think it's going to look like that. I'll tell you that. But Rayo's also a puncher as well. He can crack, but Gary got a chin as well. So we just got to see who got the better chin. We've seen Rayo go down. I mean, oh my God. I really don't know, man. This fight, I really don't know. But if you had a gun to my head, you're like, yo, choose. I'm probably gonna go. I'll probably go Gary. No, I'll go Rayo. I'll probably go Rayo. Only because I'm gonna go based off of their last performances. Because I feel like Puello is a better boxer than Rayo. So Rayo is not gonna be able to box Gary Antoine like Puello was able to. He's gonna have windows of spurts, of getting caught up, especially when Gary starts throwing punches, start framing you, using his forearm to catch you in those punches and start pouncing on you. In terms of, I would say physics, what is the height between the two? Do you know what the arm length is between Gary and Rayo?
65, 10, 69-inch reach.
Who's 65?
5'10", 69-inch arm reach is Gary Anton Russell.
Oh, okay. And then Rayo?
Rayo 5'10", 70-inch arm reach.
Oh, so they're comparable. This is what I'm saying. So like when you're fighting a smaller fighter like Pitbull, you can escape some of those punches, right? Like, but a bigger guy, man, it's tough, man. This fight really, to me, is really a 50-50 fight to me. It's really a 50-50 fight. A part of me, I mean, like I said before, if I had to choose, I might, if I'm going just strictly off of their last performances, I'm going to be leaning towards Rayo. But a part of me is like, yo, Gary might be on some shit this next fight because he's gonna want to prove himself. He might. So I can't wait for that fight. That's the fight that I feel like is going to be the fight to watch. You know, but it's just a part of me also like Gary just never got to that next level. But Rayo isn't to me. He's not like a A-tier fighter to me either. So they're kind of like in the same realm.
Yeah, but I think Gary's still fairly, relatively young in his career. Not young. I mean, he's 28. He's only had 18 fights, so he could still be approaching his prime. You know what I mean? Or should be entering it per se.
Yeah.
I think it's a tough fight. Like you're thinking of a guy, Gary Anton Russell, with a decorated amateur background, right?
Yeah.
So we know the potential. I think he beat guys like Richardson Hitchens, Boots Ennis. So I do see where he can really pose a threat and mess this up for Rayo. It's a really tough title defense. You got to respect Rayo for taking it. The one thing, and I agree. I don't think he can fight the way Puello fought. I guess the one thing I'll say about Rayo that's probably making a difference though is he was training with Jose Benavidez Sr. and he reverted back to Robert Garcia,
Yeah.
who I think is a superior trainer, and I think Robert Garcia, I'm I respect that he's going to have a good game plan, probably box
Yeah.
more, brawl less, but obviously, like you said, Rayo still can crack. So I don't feel comfortable with it, but I'm going to pick Rayo probably to win a split decision.
Yo, I feel the same way. Like I'm
Yeah,
picking Rayo, but I don't feel like I'm like, it's one of
yeah.
those like you gotta pull teeth to get that decision out of me. But I feel the same way. Like I felt like just the way, especially we're going based off, and I don't like to go based off like, but it's kind of like what have you done for me lately? It's that type of thing. And
Mm-hmm.
you know, the way Rayo looked really polished in his last fight, you know, and he made improvements that I didn't think he was capable of. So I'm also banking on that adjustment going into this fight as well, making that extra added adjustment. And maybe Gary Antoine is not going to make the necessary adjustments to get the win, you know, but
Mm-hmm.
we will see. We will see. It's going to be a
Yeah,
fantastic fight. I'll tell
I
you
think
that.
yeah, Gary's gonna want it real bad though because Puello's fighting, like Sandor Martin, to defend that title, and I think Puello will win. So maybe Gary will be looking to unify in his get back. So I know he's gonna want this one real bad, but good fight. Can't wait to see it.